Hello, beautiful souls. What an amazing time for us to come together for this talk. Thank you for being here. Today, I'm guessing you're interested in how you can turn around a downward spiral of negative emotions, of negative thoughts. How do we do that? This is tremendous mastery whenever you really understand this process and implement it when shit really hits the fan. That's right. That's whenever we actually need to use this. It's easy for us to be having a conversation and just having a class and be taking notes. But when it's really going down, right? Whenever there's that weak spot of your life, you could say, that moment where something comes up with an ex or with a family member, or you have money issues again, or your body is getting sick and the same ailments, the same illness coming back, the same addiction, whatever it is. It's those moments where we get stuck, we get caught in thinking the same thought that activates a familiar emotion, which at least to us, we're like, hey, this feels comfortable and it feels known, even though it kind of sucks. But for a lot of us, it's like, wow, this is better than going out into the unknown because that's really scary. That's fearful. At least I know what it's going to be like. So we can get caught in this cycle and it can become a downward spiral. So much pain, so much discordance, so much dis-ease, a lot of imbalance, and we finally, a lot of times we finally hit rock bottom, which is where there's nowhere else to go. It's either transition out of this life or figure something out or just stay here. And maybe you've been there before. We go through the dark nights of the soul in our lives. So whether you're going through something intensely deep and dark like that now, or you just want to be able to shift more quickly whenever you start getting into anger or you start getting into frustration and overwhelm and, all the things that we can get into in our lives, stress and anxiety. This is an awesome 3-step process that I'm going to be guiding you through today that helps you turn around that downward spiral into a positive upward spiral, because you can totally be on an upward spiral every day. Greater and greater levels of love and joy and bliss and ecstasy and creativity. It's amazing. Let's do that. Let's fall more in love with our future than our past. So I'm excited that y'all are here for this special moment in time so that we can have this talk together. Before we move forward with the rest of the talk, we're going to take a moment to center ourselves, set an intention. So let's do this together, everyone. Thank you all for being here with me. So close your eyes if you can. Take a deep breath in and exhale. And on this next breath, let go of everything that you're holding on to from today, from earlier, what was happening, any thoughts, any emotions, any actions. Take a breath in and exhale. And on this breath, let go of tomorrow and let go of later today. Let go of the future. Inhale. Exhale. And in this moment, set an intention for yourself, for this talk, this gathering that we have here in this moment. What is your intention? Is your intention to learn how to master your thoughts and your emotions? Is your intention to go with the flow of life? Is your intention to think greater than how you feel, to heal from a situation and turn this downward spiral up into an upward spiral? What is it for you? Maybe to have a question answered. Maybe to be surrounded by loving souls who love you and support you, which we all do. And so it is done. So feeling that, being appreciative and grateful for that intention already being done. And now we get to enjoy the ride of the intention materializing into the 3D world, right? So welcome everyone to an amazing discussion, and it's going to be interactive. So as we're moving along, if you do have a question that comes up, you can throw it out there. There are also going to be moments in this talk throughout the session where I'm going to have you get some practice and also respond, because I want this to be interactive. I like doing the 3 I's whenever I present anything: information, interaction, and integration. New information is pouring in. We're creating new synaptic connections. We're learning. We're actually just remembering. We're remembering things that we forgot because we chose to have amnesia as we entered into this lifetime for soul evolution purposes. But we're remembering or learning, whichever word you want to use. So that's why information's so great. And then interaction. When you share with others, when you speak it out loud, when you write it down, you get it out of your head, you clarify, and you also, you're vulnerable. I mean, you're opening your heart. You're opening your heart to others because you're actually doing it and you're living it and you're being it instead of just thinking about it. And then integration, meditations, and integrating the energy, making deep shifts, because we are energy at the truest form, not just thinking about things. So those are the 3 I's. We're going to be using that pretty much anytime you connect with me. I love to use those. So this process, what prompted me to put this class on is that last week on Tuesday, so a week ago, I mean, I'm not perfect, guys. I mean, of course, I'm a human being. I run into negative spirals as well. Over a period of time, over a decade-long plus spiritual awakening and journey and this and that, I've noticed that my emotional refractory period gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and I'm able to turn things around quicker. But we all have, like I said, softer spots where there's a particular thing in our life. It could be one relationship. It could be like an ex or someone that your spouse, I don't know. It could be your mom or your dad. It could be about money or about your body. We're not all the exact same. So you might have an area. So I have this relationship situation. And last week on Tuesday, it basically got reactivated. And I got really, nothing happened. There was no event. But mentally, I was like, oh, wow, I'm about to do this. No, I need to resign myself. I'm going to step away, like let all this go completely, basically being really extreme. Delete, forget, step away all the way. And I've done this before. So it's a pattern in this particular relationship situation multiple times in the last 6 months. And I know I'm meant to learn temperance, learning more of the middle path and being able to love regardless of my external environment, regardless of what's going on. The point is, I was about to, I had resigned myself. I could feel my energy totally turning off and contracting and constricting. But I'm like, you know what? This is what I need to do. And I was there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours at least. And I was like, really, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to do this exact same thing for 2 or 3 weeks. And like, oh yeah, open my love, open my heart even more fully again. Like, why would I do that? Why would I do that for another 2 weeks? And this is what happens. We get into these moments in time where we get triggered. We get triggered from something that someone says or a particular environment we're in. Or like last night, I was teaching this class in person in Dallas, and Brian was sharing how he is working through being able to sleep in his bed. He has insomnia and issues with sleeping. So he has associated getting into his bed as a place of anxiety and not a place he wants to be, for example. And someone else in class was talking about how she's in a new relationship and it's going so well. And it reminds her of the best relationship she's ever been in her life, which was when she got married, and they have since gotten a divorce. But the point is, early on in that relationship was really great. It was fiery, it was passionate, it was incredible. And then it ended up going south and she got a divorce. So she's like, and I was like, oh my God, that's so amazing. Everyone give her a round of applause, because she's in an amazing relationship, a loving, beautiful, passionate, enjoyable relationship, right? It's like, savor that. But we have memories of the body and we have programming that will get triggered. So the process that we're going to do is a 3-step process. Not only is it turning around that downward spiral ASAP, but going the other way. How do we upward spiral it, right? So that we change something and we don't just reactivate it. Because we can pull the weed out once, but if we don't really plant something new where that weed was growing, a beautiful new flower or whatever vegetable that you want to have, the weed will just grow right back. So that's why we have the 3 steps that we're going to go through today. I'm really excited to have everyone here. I love this topic. Like I said, this happened myself on Tuesday last week. And what I did is I was able to turn this around in a couple of hours. And that afternoon, that evening, I was joyful. I was loving. I was dancing. It was personally, I was like, this was a heroic thing. This was a level of mastery that I really was proud of myself to have been able to do that, because I know I've already been in that choice point where I would go down the same path, another 2 or 3 weeks of that. And we all do that. Like, we make the choice. There's another 2 or 3 months of that. And then we come back. And then I was in class last night. I was like, yeah. And then you come back to You Transformed, which is the organization, the spiritual community that I lead. So the point is, we're going to do that today together. And it's really, really nice to have all of you here. This process is, I just like to call it mind chill. I mean, it's just a phrase that I made up. I like mind chill because for me, whenever I get into this place, I like start overthinking. And then my head starts to hurt basically because I'm trying to figure things out and how's it going to work out. And it's a lot of thought into the future, a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental processing. I'm like, just chill that mind out. But also the mind's super powerful because we can have new thoughts. We can think new thoughts because we are the thinker of our thoughts, not the thoughts that we have thunk. So we can change our thoughts. And so I call this process mind chill. Just for fun. It's really about being able to shift out of stress or anxiety or a downward negative emotional or thought spiral. Let's talk about that a little bit, though. If we're talking about thoughts or emotions, by the way, and so emotions, there are 2 types of emotions. I like to split it up in immediate emotions and thought-created emotions. And so let me explain that here. Immediate emotions. Imagine that someone right in front of you is killed. Someone like right in front of you, they're killed or they die in some way, whatever. You're going to have an emotional reaction. You're going to feel a lot of energy. You're going to feel grief. You're going to feel like pain and sorrow, and you're going to have an adrenaline response. You're going to have energy and motion. That's immediate. Now, emotion created by thought is the next day when you think about what you saw happen in front of you, and you have that same emotion pass through you. You have the same physiological response even. You know, your heart rate speeds up. You start to feel, sweating in your palms, etc. You get the same emotional and physiological response. 5 or 10 years later, you can think about that thing that happened when you saw someone die in front of you. You have the same emotional response. So the great majority of the emotions that we experience through us, which emotion is amazing, by the way. Let's not, call that out as a bad thing. It's a beautiful aspect of being in this experience. We get to experience emotional intensity. We get to feel the different senses around us. We're in a 3rd dimensional experience. It's really cool to be in separation, even though we come from unity. So, yeah, welcome, Summer Star, and did you miss a lot? I mean, we've just been going into the background as to how I was able to turn around a downward thought and emotional spiral last week. And then also that was the impetus of me wanting to share this with everyone today. It's a 3-step process where you can turn around a downward spiral of thoughts or emotions quickly. So that's really incredible. But what I'm pointing out here is that whenever we're experiencing emotions, it's because we are thinking a thought and we're reactivating it. That's the majority of our emotions that we're experiencing. That's exactly what happened to me last Tuesday. Nothing happened right then and there. There was not an event per se. There was a trigger of a past experience where I had, like, let's say a miniature trauma response that created the emotion again. Okay, so we experience emotions. That's not bad at all. Feel them, but for how long? Okay, so we let them pass through. The initial emotional wave, I read in a book one time somewhere around 90 seconds. Don't quote me on that, but I know that it's a relatively short period of time in which if you literally feel it fully and like you cry and it just passes through you and you don't hold it in, that's what an emotional wave can be. Now, we extend it with the thought. I just want to point that out, that we're about to get into this, but you're the thinker of your thoughts. not the thought. So if you're the thinker of your thoughts and your thoughts are creating the emotions and they're getting you into this downward cycle and this pattern and you're stuck, you're going to have to think a new thought. You have to be able to think greater than how you feel. If you can't think greater than how you feel, you're going to be stuck. Oh, thank you for that, Kelly. You're going to be stuck in this place, and I don't want anyone to be stuck in that place, okay? So the next thing that I want to go over, just to set the stage for Mind Chill, which we have 3 steps in Mind Chill. I know y'all are really excited to hear the 3 steps, but setting the stage, 3 levels of reality. Okay, let's start at the top level of reality. Do you guys like my slideshow? I just use my hands and write things in the air. Check that out. This is cool. Source. So highest level of reality, source. Or you could say God, quantum field, universe. It doesn't matter, right? It's just all that is. Oneness. The source from which you came, whatever that is. You as the creator or the creator, right? But we know that we came from the creator. We are an aspect. We chose to individualize and separate. Like, that'd be pretty cool to experience ourselves in relationship instead of just in oneness. But that is the highest level, okay? Now, if you're just living in oneness, like you go to the level of source, go into become enlightened. Go to a deep meditation. Go up to the 7th dimension or something. You're not going to be in a downward emotional spiral, trust me. You're just not going to be. You're going to be in this extremely high frequency of love and bliss and joy. I just want to point that out. Now, the next level of reality underneath that is consciousness. Because Source was like, hey, let's actually have perception and awareness, even whenever we individualize. So it's like, let's kind of individualize in different entities and have monads and have different ensouled experiences. At a level of consciousness, you have awareness. You have awareness that, oh, okay, I'm in a body. I can think thoughts. I'm feeling emotions. There are other aspects of me around. However, that's, I know that I come from Source, from this origination point. Oh, hey, Sue, and also Elizabeth, I wanted to take a look at this one real quick. I can relate to reactivating an emotional experience. I get so emotional thinking back to when I saw my young son in our backyard pool. He was fine, but I've struggled with this for years. Oh, absolutely. That is very, very difficult, Elizabeth. And thank you for being vulnerable and even sharing that on your heart with us. That's really, really big of you. And thank you for that. I mean, I completely understand how we have these memories, right? A memory that has a stronger... Welcome, Kate. A memory that has a stronger emotional intensity is going to be more ingrained into our brain, of course, and into our body. So, Elizabeth, we still can change that, right? We can write a new story, even though that seems very challenging. It doesn't mean it can't be done, and we're going to get into that in a bit, but thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate you. And so what we're getting to, consciousness is the second level of reality. Now, hopefully we're all operating from there right now. You guys are like, yeah, I'm awakened. I'm on Insight Timer. I mean, y'all understand what consciousness is, I imagine, and you get that. Now, the next level, the bottom level, is thought. Thinking thoughts, right? And all over the place. The large majority of society, large majority of the population on this planet, they literally live in that bottom tier, which is thought, meaning that they are fully engaged with thought and emotion. They believe that that's what they are. There's no judgment here. It's just observational. A lot of us here are like, oh yeah, that's how I was until I started to awaken and learn these deeper truths. Of course. But at that level, whenever you think you are your thought, you're like, that's just what it is. I always have thoughts. I always have chatter. I can't change my emotions. Like, it just hits me. That's just what I feel. If you're trying to change it, you can't solve a problem at the level at which it was created. So if you're trying to solve your problem with more thoughts at this level, if you're trying to solve a problem just by like shifting emotions at that level, you're going to stay stuck there. That's horizontal thinking. We need to do vertical thinking. We need to jump up to consciousness. If you step up to the level of consciousness and you see the greater perspective and you're like, oh yeah, I'm the thinker of my thoughts. All thoughts are ultimately illusions. I mean, I could think a thought that tomorrow I'm going to be in a car wreck. I could think a thought that tonight I'm going to meet the love of my life. You could think whatever you want. I mean, oh, hey, Blossom Piano. That's nice to have you here. So you can think any type of thought that you want. And the point is, your thoughts absolutely do create your reality. And I know many of you are aware of that. So when I say that thoughts are illusions, it's not that they aren't things. They're making an effect. They are causing an effect on your reality. But you can think any thought. You're an unlimited creator. We came here to play in a sandbox in a sense. As source, as God, as oneness, individualizing and having all these life experiences and universes and all the different timelines and the drama that we see throughout history and throughout the future. It's just different forms of creation. So what I mean is that you can create whatever you want. You are that powerful, and you can think a new thought. So yeah, we've got the 3 levels there. Now, if you go all the way up, I mean, I'm talking transcendental. You have like a psychedelic experience, or you're just really astute with your meditation. You have a metaphysical moment, and you connect all the way up with source and oneness. You are not going to be in a downward spiral after that. Trust me. I haven't met people who have had that experience. So the point is, those are the 3 levels of reality that I wanted to go over. So step number 1, we're going to get into the process of mind chill now, this 3-step process of shifting. Step number 1 is observe. Step number 1 is observe. There we go. So observe is stepping up to the level of consciousness, because when it's really going down and you're like, you got triggered and you're having the thoughts, you're getting stuck, you're getting anxious, you're starting to feel the emotions again. Personally, I remember hearing this when I was a kid. Someone was like, oh, take 10 deep breaths and calm down. I mean, yeah, you can do that. Breathing's really important, and we're going to get to that in step number 2. But what I mean is that someone was like, hey, take some breaths, or you should just go dance. Like, you just shift your vibration, Personally, that doesn't work for me. That's step number 2. Step number 1 is observe what's going on and just not being totally caught in it. Like, hey, this is something I'm observing. Wow, seriously? You're about to make that choice again? That addiction that you have, you know, whether you have an addiction to a substance, you have an addiction, like a sex addiction, porn, alcohol, or whatever it could be, any type of addiction, social media addiction, and you're like, you know that it's not good for you, and you're about to make that choice again. You at least observe it. You know that you're like, oh yeah, I'm being aware here. I can literally make the choice or not. Am I more in love with my future or more in love with my past? Do I love myself enough? What am I doing here? That is step number 1. It's observe and recognizing that. I love this quote. Everything I tell myself is a made-up story in my head. Because just like I said earlier, they're all stories. All thoughts are ultimately illusions. You can have a new thought if you want. And what happens if you have a new thought? What happens if someone's like, oh no, like there's a pandemic and things are shutting down and it's going to be awful and I'm going to run out of money, blah, blah. Or you shift it around. You're like, wow, there's opportunity. I get to be with my family more. I'm going to learn new things. I'm going to start a new business. Whatever it is, like we can always have a new thought. And that story, tell yourself a story that's empowering. Tell yourself a new story. You're that powerful. Yeah. So I love that quote. And just remembering that I am the thinker of my thoughts and that I'm also not my emotions. I experience emotions, right, as waves on the top of the ocean, but I'm actually the depth of the sea, the depth of the ocean that's still and always profound and powerful. Those are just waves on the surface. They come through and they pass around. Oh, hey, good to see you, Anami. Thanks for being here. Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. So step number 1 is observing, and many of you are quite astute at this, even if you're new or you've experienced it before. It's just you just get better at it over time. I just want to point that out. If you're like, it's hard for me to catch myself, you just get better at it over time. Start to pay more attention. Start to disassociate from the thoughts. Be like, oh, hey, I'm observing. I'm paying attention. I'm the consciousness. And also, we have thoughts come through us that aren't even our own thoughts, which is a whole nother conversation. We can have thoughts come in from another entity, from the collective consciousness. So even discerning, are these from within myself, my lower self, if you want to say that, or from my higher self, from divinity, from a higher perspective? Now, whenever you're observing and you're like, okay, I'm kind of watching the monkeys play right here. I'm kind of watching this circus take place. You're not judging yourself, though. You're not like, oh, man, you suck so much. Are you kidding me? You're about to make that choice again, you idiot. Like, none of that. Like, no negative self-talk. There are two questions I like to ask myself, and I'll give you a third bonus question. The first question is this a lie? So let that one sink in. Is this a lie? You could be getting into this cycle where you lost your job a month ago and you're looking at your bank account again, bills are due all over the place, and you're like, I'm going to get kicked out of my apartment, or, I'm going to lose this, like my relationship's crumbling because of this financial situation, like my partner's going to leave me, or whatever it is. All these different things. And it's very natural for us to get to this catastrophizing place, but we can make it natural for that to not be our natural reaction too, by the way, because for me now it's not. You can get used to becoming much more optimistic. But when you ask this question, is this a lie? Or like I had the example, oh, thank you, Sue, for sharing that. Yeah, we are definitely not our thoughts. We're the thinker of our thoughts, right? We have that power to shift. But if you ask, this is a lie. Earlier I shared someone in my class last night, we were talking about the same topic, about the relationship situation. And she was like, it's just going so well, but I'm scared that like it's too good to be true and I'm going to lose it again and I'm going to get hurt like in my marriage. And I'm like, what, is it possible that this is the one? Like, this is an amazing relationship, that many beautiful, next level, deeply connected relationships start with a great beginning. And that's true, right? So we have to actually ask that question, is this a lie? And you could say it out loud, or we can have conversations with others about this as well, but we're talking about being able to shift more quickly within ourselves. So ask that question. It's always going to be a lie because everything is ultimately made up, like I said. They're all stories. Everything's an illusion. We get to choose new thoughts. So ultimately, if you want it to be a lie or true, okay, there are some things, let's say, that are just ultimate truths at the level of, like I said, source, universe, reality, all that is. It's immutable, like it's unchanging. That's not the point. I'm talking about at the level of thought, especially. Thought and creations and transitory, ephemeral nature of that which we create in our lives. The other question is this loving to me? Is this loving to me? And you ask that question, and you're going to know the answer. You're going to know the answer. You're going to know in your heart whether it is or not. And you move forward with that choice. You get to keep going with that cycle. You keep to continue spiraling out if you want. Or you can go to step number 2. But if you ask the questions, is this a lie? Is this loving to me? And you get real. And then number 3, it's a bonus question, is am I more in love with my past or my future? I'm more in love with my future. And don't take that the wrong way. I've read The Power of Now like 8 times, by the way. So I love my now. I love the present. That's not the point. But I'm actively creating and calling, and I tell people stories about my future. I tell people stories about what I've created already that I know exist and that it's coming forth. And I'm excited however and whenever it comes. It's so awesome. I'm already so grateful. But I know that if I go down this path again and I go down this downward spiral one more time, I take it out for another, I let it suck me down again. I'm definitely more in love with my past because I'm staying there. So that's a third little bonus question for you. So let's take a moment to do a short practice. And whether you've done, I'm sure many of you have done this before because you're an Insight Timer, but let's do it anyway. So if you can, close your eyes. And we're just going to observe our thoughts without labeling them or judging them. So close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. And simply be in this moment. Any thoughts that do come to you, imagine it's a parade just walking by in front. You wave out to these thoughts as they're members of the parade. No judging, good or bad. Just waving and letting them walk on. And who are you? Who are you? Who is observing these thoughts? Feel the energy of you. And now create a thought. Create a thought from your future. What is a future moment in time that you've already created? And see that, visualize it, and feel the emotions from this incredible moment from your future. And let that go. Once you're ready, you can open your eyes. So that was fun. Just a moment in time there where we were realizing that thoughts can come through us without us having to become them, without us having to react to them. Or if we choose, as we did at the end, you can think a new thought that has a very positive, powerful, upward spiraling emotional momentum. And that's what we did. So we, in like 60 seconds, we just were able to experience that together. So I'm glad that that was powerful, Elizabeth. It was for me too. That was really great. And so that was step number one. Step number one is observe. And then again, we're making the choice. It's like, okay, am I going to go down this route or not? And if you're choosing to not do so, let's go to number two. Number two is now. Hey, actually, what time is it, guys? Yeah, it's now. So it's always now o'clock. But what I mean by that is entering into the now. I mean the real now, like fully present. Not where you're 95% present, but there's a little bit of anxiety. There's a little bit of thinking something else. No, all the way. You know what I'm talking about. We enter the now at different moments in life. I know many of you enter into the now when you meditate or do yoga or play a sport or you're writing or you're artistic, you're creating something, making love, orgasming, things like this that pull you viscerally into the present moment, being in nature and just connecting fully with that around you. Entering into the now, I like this as step number two because we observe the craziness and we're like, okay, I need to shift out of this. But you don't just go from that to changing and remembering your truth and reprogramming. It's too big of a jump, right? So that middle step is entering into the now. There are so many ways you can enter into the now. I just mentioned some of them, such as dancing as well, listening to music. Maybe there's a particular motivational YouTube video or podcast, and you hear it, and you're like, oh, yes, okay, I know. And you get back to what you know to be true. For me, I did this last night in class. I can't do it here, but I like to just walk around. I'll just walk around with my eyes barely open. I'm going to act like I'm doing it right now. Walking around outside or in my living room. And I start to feel the energy flowing through my arms, down to my fingertips, the chi, the prana. I'm taking some breaths. I feel energy in my heart. I get connected in. I get grounded and connected in a short period of time. It allows me to enter into the now. You can do that. You can stop, take a couple of breaths. Right? Let's actually take let's take 3 mindful breaths together. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Isn't that amazing? You put pause on that downward spiral, didn't you? You put pause on it because you're fully engaged in the breath, that spirit, that energy flowing through you. So you can do a little walking, take a couple of breaths, maybe listen to a song. I mean, if someone was like, hey, you should dance right now, you'll feel better. I'll be like, I really don't feel like dancing. So there are certain things that just aren't going to work for you, right, until you get to a higher emotional state or a higher vibration. But there can be something, right? So find something that works for you, that you can, maybe smelling something, aromatherapy, or doing some liminal work or cooking, I don't know, whatever it is for you. Enter into the now, because psychological fear can't exist in the now when you're fully present. That psychological fear, psychological distress, right? This spiral that we get stuck into. You can't coexist with that. Love and fear can't coexist in the same instant. I mean, you might be fearful and then not too long after shift into love, but in the same instant, you can't experience them both. So that's really, really powerful. So what we want to do is enter into the now and be there. And it's not that you have to do like a 1 hour meditation or do something special, but we observed. That was step number 1. Step number 2, now. Enter into the now. And once, I love this quote as well, because this is related. Oh, another way, by the way, if you want to fully enter to the now, take a cold shower or a cold plunge or jump into a cold river. Cold water will get you into the now, trust me. I love taking cold showers, and super powerful way to get into the now and shift yourself. But this quote is, when the warrior stops talking, even the craziest of tasks becomes possible. When the warrior stops talking, even the craziest of tasks become possible. So entering into the now is really going to stop that talking and that chatter and that crazy. And it's like, okay, I am here now. This is what is. I'm alive. I'm in this experience. Now, we're going to move to step 3, because we don't want to just have it recreate. Because what you could do, honestly, is step number 1 and 2. You observe it, like, this is crazy, I don't want to make that choice. You get into the now, and then you just like move on with your life. And that same thing just crops back up again. You have the same thought like the next day. You have the same thought a week later, the same trigger. You didn't change anything. We need to transform. We need to shift. We need to reprogram. And that's step number 3, in a sense. Step number 3 is remember. Remember. Remember, change, transform, they're all related. But what step number 3 is about? It's reminding yourself your truth. Reminding yourself your truth. And it's really telling yourself a new story. Having a new thought. You're the thinker of your thoughts. Your thoughts are creating your emotions, unless it's an instant, immediate emotion, like I said earlier, about a specific event that took place around you, which is quite rare. It does happen. So we remember. It could be that this whole downward cycle was about money, and you get stuck in the cycle about not having enough, never having enough. You get frustrated. You get angry. You're like, why? I try so hard. I read so many books on abundance. Do you have any idea how many Abraham Hicks YouTube videos about abundance I've listened to? Like, I'm crushing it on information. Yet vibrationally, you're not manifesting, or you're not vibrating in prosperity consciousness, apparently. But so you get into this kind of downward spiral, and the thoughts and the emotions, and you start spinning out. And your truth can be, I am abundant. I am generous. I am unlimited. Everything is always working out for me. It's really the reversal. It can be an affirmation, saying it out loud. It could be reminding yourself. It could be a future vision that you wrote for yourself and like reading it. But for me, it's more of like just a reverse. It's the complete opposite of what started all of this. So if it was about your body, like you're having pain and digestive issues again. Like, oh my God, like I can't even eat like a gluten-free muffin without being on the couch for 3 hours, and you're getting all upset and sad and you're crying and whatever. And then your truth that you are reminding yourself is, my digestive tract is in balance and harmony. I love my body. I am perfect health. And we have to have that spiritual willpower to remind ourselves of truth, think a new thought, tell ourselves a new story that's empowering. You get to shift about anything, a tragedy from your past, a traumatic experience. You could shift from it being like, I was the victim of this experience. This happened. Like, why, to I'm so grateful that I learned, that I had this experience, that I helped someone else with their soul evolution, that I am alive and that I get to now teach others about it. Whatever. You tell the new story, and you tell the new story enough. Oh, thank you for being here, Ashley. So you tell a new story enough, and it allows you to reprogram. But those are steps 1, 2, and 3. Observe. Now, remember. It does work, everyone. It does work. So Patrice is asking fear of the future, which is ultimately anxiety, because we all don't know what's going to happen in the future, by the way, Patrice. I have no idea what's going to happen tonight or tomorrow. Literally, we have no control over it. We are conscious creators, and so that's a long conversation. But what I mean is that, so Patrice, whenever you ask this question, remember, it's step number 1, we ask the questions, is this a lie, and is this loving to me? Question could be, is this a lie? So Patrice, I don't know if you'd like to share a specific fear of the future. That would be great, because you had a very generalized question. But if you would like to share a specific one, that would be awesome. And if not, that's okay. But a specific fear of the future could be about, not knowing if you're going to make it into a college you want to get into or get a job or whatever it is. We can always ask, is this a lie? Yeah, the safety of my children, not knowing what's going to happen with a caretaker or an ex or whatever that's going on. And is it a lie that anytime this happens, I'm just making up a situation, anytime someone gets a divorce and the other partner, like they don't know how to handle the kids, and then the kids like get harmed or get injured or something happens to them. Obviously that doesn't always happen, right? So asking that, is it loving to me to get into fear and concern about the future? Now, again, what do I have control over, right, Patrice? What do I have control over? I have control over my thoughts, my emotions, and my actions. So I can tell myself a new story, first of all, is that my children are always safe and always protected. I have gratitude for my children always being safe and protected. And that could be your new story. Something could still happen to one of you. I have 3 kids. I get it. Like, I know that they're safe. They're always protected. They're always taken care of. I have common sense, right? With who they're with and interactions and this and that. But they have soul evolution. They have their own path. Something crazy perceived as traumatic could happen in their lives or mine. I don't know. So it's not loving to me to be in fear of that for the rest of my life, because then I'm in anxiety and I'm less of myself and I'm like holding back my energy. And that's not even me being as good of a father for my own children. I want my children to be fearless. I want them to be loveful, though. I want them to be full of love, full of life. And yes, make decisions, pay attention. It's not about, being such an optimist that you're not aware of challenges or potential dangers. That's not the question, right? But what I mean, Patrice, is you can shift that. You can tell yourself a new story. And you have to realize that you ultimately don't have control over the future. You have control over your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions right now. And that can empower you. But thank you for sharing that. I really like this quote whenever it comes to the remember section. Your life will follow your thoughts, no matter what's true about the world. Now think about that. Your life will follow your thoughts, no matter what's true about the world. This means there could be a war going on around you. There could be a recession. This means there could be a pandemic. There could be like crazy things around you in your external environment. Your life's going to follow your thought. If you have a story, if you're thinking thoughts, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am wise, I am I'm a creator. I'm serving from the heart. Everything's always working out for me. Even things that are challenges, I'm so grateful for them. When you're telling stories like this, you are creating your reality, of course, right? Regardless of your external environment. So now I wanted to ask if anyone has any questions that have come up. If you are running into, you get into a negative downward spiral at times and you're like, I don't really know how to address it. I mean, the 3 steps you just told me are great. Maybe you have a concern or a question. Also, if you'd like to share a time in which you went down in a spiral, but you were able to turn it around. Maybe share some of your own wisdom that's similar to this, but possibly a little different. So I'd love to hear any questions, or if you're running into a downward spiral type of situation that you're cyclically coming up against, a pattern, or a time where you turned it around and you want to share. And thank you for that, Anami. I appreciate that. It's great to have all of you here. This is amazing. We hit triple digits here. Yeah, thank you, Haresh, for being here. It's good to see you again, by the way. It's been a couple of weeks. You said you usually go down the spiral. Well, you could change that to I used to go down the spiral, because if you keep saying usually, it's still a continuation. You're propagating your past into your future. If I'm just being overly coach mode at the moment. But you usually go down the spiral when something triggers an old hurt. How can we change that story from it being an old hurt to being healed, to being whole, to being, I'm grateful for what happened, right? Yeah. So this was an old hurt that I've chosen to heal, because I know when I go up, consciousness, I go up to the source level, I am whole and complete. And I had an experience for a reason. I'm grateful for the lesson that I learned. And I know that when I don't have fear and when I live in love, anything's possible. And I go on an upward spiral when I have that story. So Alicia, thank you for sharing. I know I'm a powerful person, and every time I feel unlike myself, I remind myself I am not my thought, that it is not the authentic me. Yeah, so you're like, yeah, Alicia's saying, you know your truth. These thoughts, I kind of will say sometimes, this is the little me, this is little Mike. Like little Mike, you can go take a seat. I'm actually on the mic right now. So I've got some important big Mike stuff flowing through me. But yeah, the little Mike can have the thoughts and the emotions at times. And I'm like, yeah, I can feel energetically that this isn't really my truth. This is at a lower level of density and consciousness, and I'm not going to follow those directives. I need to shift out of this before I make any big moves or decisions in my life. You know what I mean? Yeah, little Alicia. Give little Alicia a hug too, though. Give her like a cookie. You know what I mean? She needs something to either chat about or eat. Sue, you said what to do about chronic overthinking everything. I mean, this is gonna annoy you possibly, but it's not overthinking everything. Here's the answer. And I'll give you a story. So someone was in class last night, and he told me how on Friday, right before he left work, his boss was like, hey, I need you to do this thing on Monday. And Daniel in class last night, he was like, I've never done that before. Like, why are you putting this on me? And he said in the past, he would get really anxious about it, really worried. It would totally mess up his whole weekend until Monday would roll around. I mean, situations like this. And he was like, you know what, though? I was proud of myself, because I was like, I'm going to worry about that on Monday. I'm just going to live my life this weekend. And I was like, that's pretty good, Daniel. I'm glad that you took a step up. But I'm like, let's change that language. Worry about that on Monday. Let's not worry about it at all. And let me show you how. And this is the answer for what you asked, Sue. What I told Daniel was like, you get this situation thrown on you and you have this story like, oh, I'm going to fail because I've never done this before. I'm going to look bad. My job's going to be in jeopardy, blah, 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 blah. What if you tell a new story that I'm grateful for this learning experience? I'm going to show up just my authentic self. I'm going to have an open heart, loving. I'm going to just be me. I'm going to be me. If I make mistakes, that's okay. I'm going to be in a great energy. I'm going to love it. I'm so grateful. I get to learn something new. This is going to be fun. This is going to be awesome. And then you set it down, you move on with your weekend, you enjoy your life. Monday rolls around, you just show up and you do it. What I mean is that you make a choice. You told yourself the new thought, the new story. That's what helps me a lot. Instead of letting it just hang out in my head, like, oh yeah, I need to go overthink that for like another 3 weeks. Creating that new story, leaning into it. And what you're also talking about, I'm assuming, Sue, is not trusting yourself. Because if you trust yourself, you trust your intuitive guidance, you stay aligned and centered and grounded, and you make a decision, because you can make decisions faster when you trust yourself and when you trust your intuition, Sue. So what I'm telling you is lean into trusting yourself, lean into trusting your intuition, so that you can tell yourself that new story, make that new choice sooner, which stops chronic overthinking. And then it gets into chronic loving and joy in the present moment. And that's something that I'm pretty into, though. So hopefully that was helpful. Oh, Crystal, great to have you here. And I'm going to share what you put here. Trying not to worry about my broken leg, but I'm self-employed. Now I can't work for many weeks, and I wonder where income will come from on top of now having a lot of unexpected medical expenses. I feel like I'm being tested. Yes, that's it. First of all, that's a good story. You could be like, hey, I'm being tested because I know deep down who I really am. I've stepped up to this new level of me. And I'm like, okay, am I going to stay there? The universe is like, are you really ready to jump? I've also had these experiences, by the way, Crystal. It's like, are you really ready for that next level? We're going to hit you with some stuff. We're going to hit you with some things, right? And there was someone also in the group a few weeks ago who mentioned that he quit his job to play soccer, like pursue professional soccer. 3 weeks later, he injures himself, and now he's sidelined for like 5 months or something. But he's already realized that I'm being tested. I'm not giving up. I know who I am. I know my authentic self. I've already created my future, and I'm leaning into that, and I'm going to have spiritual willpower. So Crystal, right? It's not worrying about money, but it's like leaning into prosperity consciousness. How can you learn more about how abundance actually operates? There are some really great books about that. The Abundance Project is one by Derek Rydell. There are many others, but what I'm trying to say is that you could learn more. Maybe you have some time to learn. Maybe you have some time to go deeper with your spiritual practices. And how can you not feel underwater, even when there's a perception of a lot of external things going on around you? And how can you love yourself and love your leg? Send healing energy to your life. How can you learn more about energy healing and your connection to oneness and your ability to actually direct that energy healing through Reiki and things like that? What I mean, Crystal, is that it's a powerful moment in time for you to, yes, you could say pass the test, learn about energy healing, learn about abundance, prosperity, consciousness. I have no doubts about you, Crystal, by the way. She's actually in our local group in the Dallas area, and I know this is a challenging situation, but challenging situations create spiritual, peaceful warriors. I mean, you are one, and this is proving this to you, and it will prove this to you whenever you look back at it, by the way. So, yeah, Alicia also mentions you feel like journaling is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Alicia. My daughter was talking to me about how she deals with her emotions and things. She was asking me about how I do it. She's like, yeah, what I do is I like to write down things, draw pictures about like when someone made fun of me or this or that happened. She's like, at the end of the year, I like to burn my journal and let all that go. I'm like, that's actually really amazing. She just told me that 2 days ago. I didn't know about that. Yes, Sue, you can do it. You can absolutely do it, Crystal. Thank you for that, Alicia. So any final questions, anything anyone else wants to share before we wrap up? Thank you all so much as well for following me on Insight Timer. Any donations as well go towards creating new incredible meditations, retreats, events. You can find out about our retreats and our events and all the cool experiences we do in You Transformed on my website. I don't actually have an Insight Timer group right now, but you can find my website. We do have a community and a new community we're actually going to be releasing very soon with a lot of cool new stuff. And we also host retreats, which are really, really, really great. Yeah, so Annika, thank you for being here. And I can already see you cleaning that mud off of you. I've seen your future, Annika. You're so powerful. You're so powerful. You're going to be like, you know what? That mud, that was like some Tibetan clay or something that actually exfoliated my skin. That was amazing. My skin is radiantly gorgeous now. So that's a new story. Just wrote it for you. Yeah. So, maybe a couple minutes left. Any final questions? Anything anyone wants to share before we end? You can also find my meditations, of course, on Insight Timer. I have some new ones coming out this week that I highly recommend. Yeah, Anami, you're going to be applying what you've shared tonight. Amazing. Absolutely. So just as a recap, what I call the mind chill process, you can really call it whatever you want. It's turning around a downward spiral into an upward spiral. And that is observe, recognizing that you are the thinker of your thoughts. You're not your emotions or your thoughts. You can step above and perceive them. Ask the questions, is this a lie? Is this loving to me? And bonus question, am I more in love with my past or my future? Step number 2 is enter into the now. Enter purely and truly and fully into the now moment. Breathing, walking in nature, whatever works for you, okay? And then you're going to reset. Number 3 is remember. Remembering your truth, reminding yourself what you know to be true, and that new story that you're writing for yourself. Those are the 3 steps to chilling out your mind, turning things around. So I appreciate everyone for being here. What a beautiful group of souls. Y'all are incredible. Thank you for that, Sue. It's an honor to have you here with us all tonight. And everyone have a beautiful rest of your now, and I will see you next time.